back to Two Average Guys. For those of you who saw our show last week, thanks for tuning in. Hope you enjoyed it. We'll try to stick to the good games this week like we did last week and talk maybe a little bit more about Nebraska, maybe a little less. But for you, Jesse, we are waiting until next week when we beat the Hurricanes. So, also, we didn't get to see a whole lot of the Nebraska game yesterday because somebody in the family decided to have a wedding on the Husker game.
Yes, that would be my sister.
So, Jason, thanks for not being a Husker fan, you jerk. We'll get USC eventually again. We'll beat them next time.
We got to watch a little bit of it, but
we saw a little bit. But Nebraska, big win yesterday. Ended up winning by 29?
It was actually 39.
39 points. So, had a big win yesterday. As you see, I didn't really keep up with it. 39-point win, though. What I did see, it looks like Tommy had a really good first half. Looked like Newby was running the ball really well. From my opinion, from what I did see on the game and the highlights, it looked like we decided to, instead of switching in 3 running backs in one game, we stuck to Newby a little bit more.
Yeah, it looked like he had quite a few yards. He had a receiving touchdown as well.
Yeah, and I think that was smart. Not that we don't have good running backs, but early in the season, let's get them established. We had a fallout game with BYU last week. Let's not be fancy. Let's keep it simple, and I think we did that yesterday.
Get some more designed runs for Tommy.
Yep.
Maybe some read options and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Get him using his feet and hurting defenses that way.
Yeah, and sure, we played South Alabama.
Yeah.
But you know what? It was a good win after a loss to BYU, who's a good opponent. It was a pretty solid win for us. Can't take much away with it. You look at the rest of the teams in the country that are top teams.
Struggling a little bit.
And they struggle against some of the good and some of the not so good teams. So I think we showed up pretty good yesterday, and Mike Riley gets his first win at home.
Good first win for Mike Riley. Good for the guys. I know that they were putting last week's game behind them pretty quick.
Yep.
During the week, they were talking about how they were moving on from it, and it looked like they did. They didn't. And I talked to some people that said, obviously you don't want to lose, but in losing that game to BYU, we didn't overlook South Alabama on our way to Miami. I feel like if we would have beat BYU, we might have had a little bit of a letdown against South Alabama. Looking forward to Miami.
Very true.
So,
Very true.
Good things there. So, hopefully it should be a good game this week on the road at Miami. There was a good game last year in Lincoln, and expect to see some more fireworks, I guess, like last year.
Yeah, and they lost Duke Johnson. They don't have Duke Johnson this year.
Lost Amir, so
I think Miami's quarterback. He's in his second year. He's a good young quarterback. He's got speed. He's got a good arm.
He's got a good arm. Yeah.
I don't know what they have at running back, but I still like Nebraska in that game. Of course, I never pick against my Huskers. So I really hope we come out strong at Miami. It's one of those old school rivalries that we always enjoy playing them.
Yeah, it'll be fun. I'm excited.
So let's talk quick about BYU. Hit on them real quick about what they did yesterday.
Yeah.
Again, 45 seconds left in the game, and Mangum, keep on wanting to call him Magnum.
Yeah,
I think I've either 1 the ice cream or 2 the condom. Either way, it's kind of funny. But he throws another touchdown pass for 35 yards in the end zone. It looked like a Hail Mary, even though it really wasn't a last-minute Hail Mary pass. He really did throw up a jump ball, and when you got a tall guy in the end zone like Juergens, he's going to catch that ball anytime. So, and then they came out strong on defense.
Yeah, I think Boise State still had a little bit of time. They threw a pick 6, so BYU ended up winning by 10. But they're going to have a tough road this week going on the road against UCLA. But, hey, those were probably 3 of their biggest games of the year, coming out with Nebraska on the road. And then they had Boise State at home and then UCLA on the road. So if they can find a way to win, they might work their way right into a potential playoff spot.
They could. I mean, they're a strong team, but it'll be interesting to see how much Mangum can do going down the road here against some tough opponents. BYU's never been really a power team, and they're still not much of a power team, but they're 2-0 to start the season and looking good so far. So.
Not having a conference championship, as you can see last year, the 4 teams were for the Power 5 conference champions made it to the playoff. So it'll be difficult for a team, the teams that are independents, like a Notre Dame or BYU. They're going to have to win all their games and be, have some pretty wins and stuff like that. So we'll see how it goes. It's early on in the season.
Absolutely, and we'll get to Notre Dame here in a second. But let's first talk about Florida State. So even though we had the wedding yesterday, I was able to watch a good amount of the Florida State and South Florida game, and I am shocked and a little upset that South Florida did not win that game. They had every chance in the world to keep it close and win the game. Everett Golson had a great game last week, and he sucked this week. Big thing, if you ever watched him at Notre Dame, he struggled most in wet weather. With bad weather, when it was wet outside, he played terrible. And it rained in Florida. They got on the field right after the rain stopped, started throwing the ball, and his first 8 or 9 attempts, he didn't have a single completion. So he struggled big time, but who did good, Jimmy?
You know, I did get to watch a little bit of this game. Some of us from the wedding party were watching some football before the wedding started. And, Golson didn't look very good. Their running back, Cook, is his name? Yeah, Cook.
Yep, Cook.
He was unreal. I mean, he had one long, 70-some yard touchdown,
74
yard touchdown run. I think he had, 30 carries for 260-some yards and a couple of three touchdowns.
Yep.
He's a beast. He's kind of scary looking.
Yeah.
He had his helmet off on the sidelines.
Yeah.
Kind of a scary looking guy. South Florida's defense was they were the best part of their game. They were pretty solid.
Yep.
Their offense was terrible. I think their quarterback threw for 125 yards, and one play was a 75-yard touchdown pass that he had late in the game when they took a shot or something. Kind of maybe like a trick play or something. But when you throw for 125 yards and 70, some of that is on one play. I mean, obviously they're going to have to try to run the ball, and Florida State's going to know that. So
and they tried running the ball, and it's at some points they did pretty good. Mac's not a bad running back. He did all right. The quarterback did decent at times, but when you're playing a team like Florida State, they got a pretty decent defense, and South Florida tried going side to side instead of up the field with their passing. So doing a lot of swing passes, but the quarterback's strength is not throwing downfield. So they struggled in that part of the game, so not much offense, really good defense. Florida State, I think they're going to have a couple losses this year.
They won by 20 points, 34-14. Obviously, that was not the way. Sorry, Adam, if you're watching. I didn't think that they looked very good, and this 20-point win in that was not really what the game actually was.
Yep.
And then they move up 2 spots in the rankings. Rankings just came out a couple hours ago before we started doing this, and I mean, again, I said it last week. I hate the preseason rankings because, a team will win and move up 2 spots when, or whatever. But,
even when they don't have a strong showing.
Yeah.
And just to note, and I don't think I told you this earlier, 14 punts in the first half. 14 punts in the first half. If that tells you anything about this game, it was not a very good game from the get-go. Both teams struggled to get first downs. South Florida actually got the first down. And then Florida State's first down, I believe, was a 74-yard run by Cook. So very slow game. Second half picked up a little bit, but both teams just struggled.
It was 7-7, I believe, at halftime. Pretty boring first half. That was kind of when we were watching it. So
kind of shocked, but Florida State coming back after last year, even without Winston, you thought they'd do a little better. But they're still 2-0. South Florida, tough loss.
10.
They put up a good team. So. Let's talk about Notre Dame. So Notre Dame played Virginia yesterday.
At
Virginia. So we said last week this was going to be a tough game for them on the road. Some people are like, it's Virginia. Virginia? Who cares?
Yeah,
but after Notre Dame, after they whooped up on Texas, who once again is not a powerhouse anymore like they used to be. Sorry, Pootie. Notre Dame, not really a huge win against Texas, but they played well. So they played well again against Virginia. Virginia put up a hell of a game. Biggest story in that game is Malik Zaire is out for the season. So no one saw this coming. How does this affect their team? What do you think?
Well, it's kind of, and we talked about it, how, neither one of us are that big of Notre Dame fans, but they lose their starting running back last week, and then they lose their starting quarterback this week. The running back they had filled in this week, I believe he tore it up. He had a bunch of yards and a couple touchdowns. Yep. So I don't think that they're too worried about that spot. But losing their quarterback, I don't think Zaire had a great start to the game yesterday. Yep. He was running really well, though. Yeah. He was like 7 of 18 throwing the ball, or maybe 11 of 18, something like that. Yeah. But he had a lot of rushing yards, and that's going to hurt him. That kind of dual threat quarterback. I don't know anything about their new quarterback, so I know he threw a long touchdown pass to win on the game.
Yeah. So Kaiser comes in the game, and he started off his first year as 1 for 3. Did not look very good. Looked a little shaky. It's his first time coming in the game. So young kid coming in the game in a hostile environment in Virginia. Very, very tough team to beat.
And they're down. And they were down.
And they were losing. So he comes in the game and they get a rushing touchdown, which gives them a good lead there. And then to go after that, the very last pass in the game, it's not easy for a college quarterback to run to the right and throw back to the left.
Deep
In the end zone. And not only did he throw the ball and he put it on the money, but he also threw it to Fuller. Fuller had a hell of a game. He had 5 receptions for 124 yards. He had a couple TDs. The one TD he had before that, the other one was from Leagues that year. Passed down the field, long pass, and it was a basket catch over the head. Not an easy catch as a receiver. So he had 2 really good catches, and I think he was the difference maker in that game for Notre Dame. I don't like Notre Dame at all, but I'm not worried about them because Kaiser had a hell of an arm. He's got a gun. He was 4 for 4 on that last drive that took him to their last touchdown to win the game. So I'm not worried about them as a team. I think they're going to be just fine moving forward, but they do have a tough schedule. That's not getting easier for them.
Yeah, and like I was saying about, that Nebraska losing the first week, coming back, they didn't have a letdown, looking ahead to Miami. Notre Dame's got a top 25 matchup against Georgia Tech next week. It could have been one of those, kind of overlooking the game. I know they went on the road, but they could have been overlooking a Virginia team that maybe, and maybe Virginia is a little bit better than people thought. Their quarterback had some pretty good statistics from what I could tell. I did see a little bit at the end of that game. I got to see the long touchdown that Notre Dame had in the game. Kind of hurt me a little bit, but
dude, you were crying.
No, it just reminded me a lot of last week's game. But yeah, I don't know. We'll see. Notre Dame does have a couple tough games on their schedule down the stretch.
So backup running back, backup quarterback now, and both of them seem to produce pretty well. Procise had a good game yesterday, rushing for over 150 yards on 17 carries. So I don't see them struggling, but they're going to have to change their offense around their running back and around their new quarterback to fit it to his strengths. So we'll see how Notre Dame does.
Yeah.
So
great.
Auburn goes into double OT against Jacksonville State.
FCS opponent, Jacksonville State.
And Auburn, who was ranked 6th at the time. So Auburn is ranked 6th. They go up against Jacksonville State. Anyone that thinks that doesn't know football, even if you watch football all the time or you don't watch football, you're going to say Auburn wins that game. No doubt. What happened?
No one, Jack doesn't even know who Jacksonville State is. I apologize to anybody that does. But,
Hey, I got a question for you. So, Pooty, this is for you. You know where Jacksonville State's located?
I would have guessed Florida.
It's not Florida. It's Alabama. Moron.
But anyway, they FCS opponent at home. Auburn ranked 6th in the country. Pretty high hopes. A lot of talk about them making it to the college football playoff. And they won the game. They still. I heard the press conference with our coach today. He said, our team morale's fine. We're still 2-0. We just need to play better.
Yep.
And they are 2-0. But Jacksonville State even had a couple chances to win the game. They had the chance to win the game during the game. They were winning 20-13 in the game with like a minute and a half left, and they had to punt. They made a stop, or Auburn fumbled. And Jacksonville State got the ball with like 3 minutes left. They ran a little bit of clock out. They had to punt from close to their own goal line.
Okay.
And the guy shanked it.
Oh, yeah.
And so they had a really short field. Auburn went in and scored a pretty wonderful touchdown, I will say, the game-tying touchdown.
Yes, it was.
Go to overtime. Auburn scores pretty quick. And then Jacksonville State had 2 passes to the end zone that the guys caught with like a toe out of bounds.
Out of bounds.
So
great catches, but they had chances.
Auburn's gonna have to turn. They're gonna have to turn it around real quick because I think they come back with. They come back at LSU. Next week.
Well, and they got Johnson starting for the first time, and Johnson's a good quarterback, but he had two picks yesterday. It's his first time starting for Auburn. He's a junior. But he threw 2 picks yesterday, and they're really hoping that he's the next big thing for Auburn, and he struggled. And I think he's going to do fine. He's a good quarterback, but he can't throw the picks that he threw yesterday. And Jacksonville State, they said it. We're here to win the game. sure, you get paid. You get paid money to go play at Auburn. Like that, they got paid.
Yeah.
They still got their money. You don't got to give that money back. But they played well, and they came out fighting. They got nothing to lose. They're playing against a good Auburn team. They have nothing to lose. They came out with everything they had, and give them props for the hell of a game that they played.
I heard their coach, press conference with their coach, and he said, when we go somewhere, no matter where it is, whether it's a top 10 team or if it's somebody because they're an FCS team, or if they're playing, a division opponent in their 1AA schedule or whatever, they're going in. They think they're going to win every game.
They fully intend to win every game.
And so, a top 10 team has never gone to overtime, lost or gone to overtime with an FCS team. And I'm not taking anything away from those teams because some of those, as you can see in the NFL, there's a lot of players that come out of the teams like that. I always hate when Nebraska has to play those games because it's a lose-lose kind of game. They can throw the kitchen sink at you, and if you beat them by 70 points, or you beat them, you're supposed to do that.
Yeah.
But if it's a tight game like we had last year, then it's like, well, what's going on? Why did you have such a tight game?
Yep.
So
props to Jacksonville State. Had a hell of a game.
Auburn drops 12 spots in the rankings.
Auburn dropped from 6 to 18
after the win.
Yep. So that's tough for them, but still early on. They're still 2-0.
We'll see. They got a tough one with LSU this weekend.
Yes, they do. So quick note: Arkansas lost to Toledo.
Arkansas was ranked 18th.
Arkansas lost to Toledo. Ugly loss. Bielema, he's very unhappy. You got to give props to Toledo, though. Toledo had a great game, but Arkansas, man, they looked really bad. They couldn't complete passes. They couldn't run the ball. They couldn't do anything. The defense was brutal most of the game. So when you look at that game, at number 18 Arkansas losing to an unranked Toledo, who knows Toledo even had a football team?
Well, it was funny because last week ESPN was all big up on the SEC having 10 teams in the top 25, 3 of which dropped out, and I should say one of which another that should have dropped out. I don't know that we had anything about it, but Missouri beating Arkansas.
Yes.
Was it Arkansas State?
They won by...
Or no, it was I'm not sure who it was, but it was 27-20.
27-20, yeah. They struggled to beat
and I think they even maybe they dropped a spot in the rankings.
Yeah, they might have.
Stupid rankings.
Anyways, so SEC struggled with that one. Arkansas loses to Toledo. We talked about BYU already. Let's look at Kentucky. Kentucky beats South Carolina. Hell of a game. I think the last time Kentucky beat South Carolina, I think it was 1985.
Yeah, they said something about...
I wasn't even born yet. So, South Carolina, and I was watching the preview for this game on Friday, and I was getting excited because they were talking about how it was tough, and I was watching Game Day on Saturday morning. They were talking about how South Carolina should take it to Kentucky. Kentucky doesn't have a chance. And then I saw Kentucky beat South Carolina, and that's exciting to me. Although I'm a Gamecock fan when it comes to baseball. But Kentucky, hell of a game. They ended up winning that one 26-22.
Steve Spurrier.
Spurrier goes down to Kentucky.
Can't say I don't get happy. I get a little smile when Steve Spurrier loses.
Jimmy likes when Spurrier loses. So that's a big win for Kentucky in the SEC.
South Carolina's
big
obviously,
loss for South Carolina.
They're obviously maybe in a rebuilding year. SEC competition's always tough.
Their quarterback struggled big time.
So,
South Carolina quarterback struggled big time yesterday. So, they got some work to do in the SEC. Ohio State. So Ohio State played on Monday. We didn't talk about them last week.
We didn't talk about that. We were doing our show.
We did it on Sunday. So
we did it right before.
So Monday, Ohio State wins. They won 42-24 in their game on Monday night against Virginia Tech. Virginia Tech beat them last year, second week of last year.
And Virginia Tech was beating them at halftime. We were kind of checking the scores and stuff.
Yep.
Ohio State came out and dominated the second half. Braxton Miller, spin move. Braxton Miller, long catch.
Braxton Miller
had a pretty solid game.
Yeah. And Cordell Jones looked pretty good that game as well.
Yeah, Cardale Jones, he did, and they brought J.T. Barrett in, I think, for a little bit during that game.
Yeah, and J.T. Barrett looked good as well. I mean, two good quarterbacks, and you got Braxton Miller going to wide receiver. Now, Braxton Miller, I think he's one of the top stories of that team this year. Transitioning to wide receiver. I hate Ohio State. I don't like Urban Meyer whatsoever. But you can't discount the fact that they have very talented quarterbacks, and Braxton Miller to wide receiver is probably one of the best things he's going to do for his career.
That's what I was
He
gonna
looks
say.
good. He was the cornerstone of that game, and everyone was watching what's he going to do. Because this week, Cordell Jones struggled this week. Hawaii 38-0 against Hawaii. I think they were like a 40-some point
41, I think.
41-point favorite, and they won 38-0. Now, a lot of people see that as impressive, but when you're number one team in the country playing a team like Hawaii, who is, they're good when they're playing teams that are at their level, but Ohio State's another level to them.
And I think it was only like 14 or 14 nothing at halftime.
Yep. They ended up 17-0. They ended up bringing
17-0.
J.T. Barrett in the second half. Braxton Miller still had a heck of a game yesterday. I think he did some wildcat offense. He threw the ball a couple times, ran the ball. He was still the cornerstone of that offense this week, and I think Ohio State, they're going to need him to stay healthy, and they're going to need both Cordell Jones and they're going to need J.T. Barrett this year.
It's kind of nice for them that they have three quarterbacks like that,
Mm-hmm.
where if one goes down, they have two other ones, or
Yeah.
or something. Because Braxton Miller, obviously, he's going to be running some wildcat offense like he had been the last two games, and receiver, and all. They're going to use him in all different kinds, as much as they can, in any kind of package that they have. But if they need him to play quarterback, he played quarterback too. So, but I do think that was the best thing for him, probably for his career.
Well,
Because he's gonna go in the NFL as a receiver, and he's gonna be pretty good, I think.
Yes.
So, and he can go in the NFL and be kind of an all-purpose type of player. They can use him as a runner. They can, if they have to bring him in to throw the ball a little bit or
Trick
reverse.
plays.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, and like I said, we're not fans of Ohio State at all.
not at all.
We don't like Urban Meyer. We didn't like him when he was at Florida. We don't like him with Ohio State. But you cannot discount the talent they have on that team at quarterback, and their running back's good. I mean, they have a heck of a team this year. So still ranked number one.
I said if they are undefeated, Ezekiel Elliott
Mhm,
Elliott is healthy,
mhm.
that he'll probably win the Heisman.
Ezekiel Elliott had a heck of a game yesterday. I think he only ran for like 111 yards, but on like 5 or 6. He didn't have very many carries yesterday either. I don't think.
He had a lot against Virginia Tech, I think.
Yes, he carried the team. Him and Braxton Miller were the cornerstone on Monday night against Virginia Tech, and him and Braxton Miller again, I think, were the big story against Hawaii this week. Even though 38-0 looks big, but they struggled in the first half, 17-0. So that tells you anything against Hawaii at Hawaii. So. So that's what we got for this week. There were some good games. The Utah State and Utah game on Thursday night was good. Utah ended up winning that game 24-14 or 24-7. They won, 24-14. So that was a good game. Very interesting game to watch. Utah's still ranked in the top 25. So that was exciting. So let's look at our top 10 teams. So we still have Ohio State at number 1 and Bama at number 2. No surprise there. I don't think anybody is too shocked to see that. TCU stays at number 3. They didn't move at all. Michigan State. Holy crap, we didn't talk about Michigan State. Michigan State over Oregon.
Yeah,
Wow.
it was the Saturday night ABC game.
Yes.
It was going on during the wedding, and it was going on during the Nebraska game.
Yes.
We did have part of the Nebraska game on one of the projection screen TVs for a little while. So unfortunately, I didn't get to see any of this game. I'm really wanting to go back and watch some highlights.
I got to see I got to see about half a replay of it, which was exciting. Connor Cook came out blasting, a lot better than he did.
We talked quite a bit about him last week.
Yes.
As being not a captain and that kind of thing. I think I picked Oregon last week. I thought Oregon was going to win.
I picked Michigan State.
31-28 is a close game. I don't know that you could have gotten much of a better game. That's why I'm a little sad that I didn't get to see it. Saturday night ABC game is usually one of my favorite games to watch.
Lee Corso, he picked Oregon, picked the Ducks.
He went to pick Michigan State. I did get to see that. He went to pick
that was
Michigan
a hoax.
State, and then obviously
He always picks the Ducks.
He always picks the Ducks.
Always. So he loses. But it, honestly, that was a good game. That was a good matchup. First top 10 matchup of the season. And Oregon and Michigan State came out, and they came out strong.
I think,
both teams.
obviously a 3-point game is a good game. I think for not taking anything away from any of the other teams in the Pac-12, but I think if the Pac-12 wants a team to go to the college football playoff this year, that's probably going to have to be USC.
I disagree. I think it's UCLA.
Or UCLA. I guess I didn't really. I kind of overlooked that.
Yep.
One of those two, probably whoever wins the game between the two.
UCLA cracked the top 10 this week, and they don't have a slack schedule coming forward, but UCLA cracked the top 10. I can see them making the playoff
thinking
this year.
that they lost Brett Hundley from last year, I wasn't sure how they were going to regroup from that, but they have looked good the first couple weeks, and they got a big game this weekend against BYU. So
yes. Yep.
We'll kind of see how they go against a pretty tough opponent there.
Yep.
But
so Michigan State, big win.
With Oregon losing, they're gonna have to win some tough games to get themselves back in position. They didn't drop very far in the rankings. I think they only dropped maybe 5 spots from 7 to 12. Something like that.
Yep.
So they're still in there. As you can see, last year Michigan State lost to Oregon.
And Ohio State.
Week 2.
Those were their 2 losses last year.
Yeah, and those are the 2 teams that made it to the championship. Michigan State lost to Oregon, but they still had a shot at making that college football playoff.
Yes, they did.
Up until that Ohio State game.
Yep.
So no one, as we saw last year, you can't really count anybody out until later on in the season. I know some good teams have lost some games at the beginning of the season here, including us. But it's a long season. A lot of things happen.
Yep, and it's gonna be exciting moving forward.
Fun.
So
it's always fun. It's always stressful, but.
So a big deal with this. When I originally came up with this idea of 2 average guys, I figured we'd talk about top 10 teams. Well, not really thinking it through too much. Top 10 teams, they don't play anybody really the first 4 weeks of football. So. We'll talk about some of these big games like we have been the last couple weeks. Let's run through the top 10 and what we got going on right now. So we got, looks like we got Ohio State still at number 1. Like I said, Bama at 2, TCU at 3. TCU came out a lot better. They scored over 70 points in their game. They rocked the boat, and they looked like the TCU. Boykin looked like the Boykin he should look like. I talked crap about him last week about being a Heisman contender. I thought he did really well this day yesterday. But TCU is still at number 3, hanging strong. Michigan State at number 4. I think that's a good spot for them right now. Personally, I think they're a better team than TCU, because if TCU plays Michigan State, defense wins that game. It's going to be Michigan State. They got a better defense than TCU. We got Baylor at 5, so Baylor's sticking in there at 5. They had a big win this weekend as well.
Cupcake game that they put up like 70 points or whatever. But.
Yep, so Baylor played well. USC and Georgia wrap out number 6 and 7. Notre Dame is at 8. Even with a close game against Virginia, they still move up 1 spot.
Thought they might drop out of the top 10.
I thought they might drop as well, but they had a hard-fought game. Once again, not a Notre Dame fan, but to me, this is what college football is all about. That game, coming down to one of the last plays of the game, as much as I dislike Notre Dame, you had to like that game. I mean, that was awesome. Even the Nebraska game, this is college football. Last 2 minutes, 2-minute drive. In pro football, 2-minute drive, you can almost guarantee there's going to be a field goal or a touchdown. In college, you never know. You can get a touchdown, an onside kick, and a field goal all in that 2 minutes. That doesn't happen very often in pro. So to me, that game was very, very, very exciting. And I could hear my brother upstairs yelling really loud when Notre Dame scored that touchdown. So it was an exciting game, and to me, that is why I love college football.
I'll let you round out the top 10, and then I'll kind of add on to that. But something about last week. But I'll let you finish out the top 10.
So last 2, we got Florida State. I still don't agree with this.
Moving up 2 spots.
Mainly because I really, really hate Florida State. Once again, Adam,
Jimbo Fisher.
Sorry for watching. Jimbo Fisher. You do not know how to handle your guys with off-field situations. But Florida State, they win. They're still 2-0. Had a tough game against South Florida. They actually moved up a couple spots to number 9, and UCLA wraps up the top 10 at number 10. So those are our top 10 games. Jimmy, what do you got to say about last week?
So what I wanted to say about last week was all the praise that has been going on about how well behaved, I guess you could say, how good of an environment the Nebraska BYU game was. All the BYU fans were talking about how awesome Nebraska fans were to them. Even
Merrill Hodge had some good comments.
And
too.
even was there said it was like one of the greatest football experiences. That like is the definition of how you're supposed to do college football.
Isn't his son plays for BYU, right?
I don't know what the story is with that,
I
but
think Merrill Hodge's son plays for BYU.
and just said like that was the most fun, most like the fans were so good even after the loss. So good things, even though it wasn't necessarily a great game that we lost, but all in all, that's what you want. I mean,
Yeah.
you want to be respected, and you want to have fans come and travel, because when you go on the road,
Yeah.
Nebraska takes a lot of fans everywhere they go, and people hear that and respect that, and can do the same things to you guys. It's just
It's college football.
Yeah.
You got kids that are younger than us playing,
Yeah.
and we treat them like pro athletes.
Yeah. That's
Which
how we
isn't
do it
always fair, but that's how it is.
I was talking.
Give us a pro sport.
I was talking to my dad. Earlier, and we were watching some pro football today, and I said, the one thing I miss about not having a pro team, or the one thing that I don't like about not having a pro team is when you have a team like Nebraska, or you have one team.
Yeah.
And it's college football. You have a loss or two in college football, and like
You're done.
You're done.
You're
In
done.
pro football, you lose, and you just you go home, you maybe drink your sorrows away, and then the next day you start back to work, and then next week, okay, we're 0-1. Boom,
You can
win
have
a game
6 losses and make the playoffs.
and win a Super Bowl.
Yeah.
So-
which by the way, big shout out. If you haven't seen, I got my Cowboys on today. So Jason Witten, go Cowboys. You got the Giants tonight. Go Boys. Go Randy Gregory, Huskers. And we got
I've
our
got my
Buccaneers.
Bucs shirt on. Last I checked, they were getting beat up pretty bad by Marcus Mariota.
Boo, Jameis Winston.
But we've got Levante David.
Yes.
Kenny Bell's out for the season, but we got Kenny Bell.
Amir Abdullah had a nice rush today for the Lions to give them a lead 7-0. That was a heck of a rush. Nice little juke at the very end, so that was exciting.
First regular season carry, 24-yard touchdown's pretty cool.
He's a sleeper.
I don't know what's been going on in the game since we've been doing our show, but
Like Ashley, you said, sleeper in fantasy. So if you haven't had him, pick him up in fantasy football. He's going to be a sleeper this year, I tell you what.
all right.
Next week's games, this is what we
Let's
got
talk
next week.
week's games. Let's take a quick look back at this last week. One other game, we did not really talk about Oklahoma and Tennessee, which was one of the best games of the week.
Yep.
Double overtime. Oklahoma wins. I think Oklahoma.
I'll pick Tennessee.
But a great game from what I could tell.
And we said it'd be a good game. Tennessee, Oklahoma going to Tennessee, traveling to Tennessee. Tennessee is good at home. Very good SEC opponent at home. They had a tough time against them. So Oklahoma, once again, they're not that powerhouse in the Big 12 like they used to be, but they're still a good team, and Bob Stoops is a hell of a coach.
Tennessee was winning 17-0 at one point in that game, and then it went 20-20 and went into overtime.
Yep.
It went to double overtime, and I think it was 27-20,
Yep.
something like that. But yeah, good game that we had mentioned. But that was one of our games from last week. So taking a look at last week, I was 3-2 with my picks.
Yep.
And Matt was 2-3 with his picks.
Yep.
So we're gonna give you a few games here for this upcoming week, and hopefully we can both make our records a little better.
Yeah.
I thought we did okay. We did okay with our picks, but
Week 1, you never know. All right. So Georgia Tech, Notre Dame.
At Notre Dame.
At Notre Dame. We're talking about touchdown Jesus in the end zone here. This is tough.
It's gonna be
now you got a backup running back, backup quarterback.
It's gonna be a good one.
First start for the Notre Dame quarterback, Kaiser.
I know that a lot of people were talking about this game being one that Notre Dame could lose because of that offense that Georgia Tech runs. They run that triple option and type of thing, and it's hard to defend. I mean,
they almost
you play. It's almost like Navy Navy almost has a shot against everybody that they play because they play such a different style that you don't practice it all season. You practice it for 1 week, getting ready for that game. And so,
who do you got?
I'm taking Georgia Tech on this one. On the road. Sorry, but
sorry.
I am taking Georgia Tech in that one.
Okay, so Jimmy, this is the second time this season he's picked against Notre Dame.
No, I took Notre Dame last week.
I know, but the first game we didn't talk about on the show. But the first game you took Texas. So this is so hard. Jimmy, I'm going Notre Dame. I hate to do it, but seeing Kaiser play this last week and Procise running the ball the way he is, I think Notre Dame is going to have a hell of a game, but their defense is going to have to step up in this game because, like you said, Georgia Tech, that triple option, they're a hell of a good team. They almost beat Florida State last year, and I think they should have, but that's a tough pick. So, I got Notre Dame, you got G-Tech.
That's fine. I'll text you or call you after the game and let you.
Ryan, Andrew, Dick, you're welcome.
Know that you're wrong about
Any other Notre Dame fans, you're welcome for picking them.
Sorry, friends and family. Moving on to number 18 Auburn, who just dropped 12 spots.
Yeah.
At number 13 LSU.
LSU once again one game. They're 1-0. 1-0.
They are 1-0 because they only played one game, but they played on the road at a ranked Mississippi State team.
That is true.
That was a 21-19 game.
You know, Dak Prescott, he was good last year. He struggled a little bit at the beginning of this year. Had a heck of a game against LSU. Ended up losing that one.
Tight game.
LSU and Auburn.
It's at LSU.
Johnson versus Prescott.
I'm gonna go with LSU. You know, maybe Auburn just had a letdown looking forward to LSU. Like we've talked about already a couple times during the show, looking ahead and kind of overlooking an FCS opponent. Maybe they come out a little stronger this week, but I'm taking LSU.
I'm going to take LSU as well. I think at home, I think they win this against Auburn. They struggled last week, obviously double overtime against Jacksonville State. So let's go LSU, go Tigers.
Okay.
USC, Stanford. Stanford at USC.
This is the Saturday night, 7 o'clock ABC game.
Saturday night showdown.
Always a good game, whether USC's ranked 6th, Stanford's unranked. I know they started the season, they lost to Northwestern, and Stanford was ranked. Northwestern, by the way, who moved into the top 25 this week.
Had another
good
win.
For them.
Yep.
But Stanford, USC, just kind of like USC and UCLA, kind of rival games. Whether one team's ranked really high or one team's not, and one team's having a really good season, one team's not. They seem to be pretty good games. I'm gonna take USC.
Okay. Because they're playing at USC.
Because it's I hope it's a good game. I'm looking forward to kind of watching some of that.
I'm gonna take Stanford. I'm pulling off the upset here, and I hope they win. I hate USC.
So do I. But last week, I picked Oregon to beat Michigan State in that Saturday night game. But if you remember right, I said for the Big Ten, for Nebraska, I want Michigan State to win. I just picked Oregon. In that game, I'm going to want Stanford, but I'll take USC.
All right, I'm going with Stanford in that one because I want Stanford to win. All right, so we got Ole Miss at Alabama. We got number 15 versus number 2. I'm sorry, I really can't pick against Alabama. They have no reason for me to pick against them. I don't think Ole Miss is as strong as Alabama, offense or defensively. I hate picking Alabama, but I got to pick number 2, Alabama.
Alabama had one regular season loss last year.
Uh-huh.
You know who that was too?
Mm-hmm.
It was to Ole Miss.
Ole Miss, yeah.
It was at Ole Miss.
Yeah. But Ohio State also lost to Virginia Tech. Their only loss of the season.
I don't see Alabama losing, but just because you picked them, I'm going to go Ole Miss.
Okay. All right, he's trying to even out the score here, guys. I'm clearly going to win that one.
No, only because I'm really going to be cheering hard for Ole Miss in that game.
I will too, but
so
I just don't think they're going to win.
I'm going to take,
I don't think
I'll
they're
take
going to
them.
win. All right, number 20, BYU at UCLA. Number 10. All right, so BYU, they beat Nebraska on a Hail Mary. They come down with 45 seconds left in the game, 35-yard pass to the end zone from Mangum to Juergens for the touchdown. I don't think they're going to have that kind of game against UCLA. Honestly, I think they're going to lose by at least 17 against UCLA. I think UCLA is going to run on them. I think they're going to pass on them. I think their defense is stronger. Nothing against BYU. Great team to start the season, but I don't think they're going to even have a chance to get it done against UCLA.
I think I watched a little bit of Game Day yesterday, and they sounded like somebody, I'm not sure which one of them it was, but somebody picked Boise State to beat them by over 17 points, just like Matt just did. Granted, they were at home and they were playing Boise State, and I didn't think Boise State was that great of a team to start the year. But for Nebraska's sake, I hope that BYU wins that game. But I'm going to go ahead and take UCLA. I think UCLA is going to gonna have a shot here to make a run. So
good pick. Okay, so last one we want to talk about because we always wrap it up. We got Nebraska at Miami. Like we said earlier in the show, Nebraska at Miami. This is a hell of a game, hell of a rivalry. This is fun to watch. No matter how good or how bad Miami is, or how good or how bad Nebraska is, this is always a good game. I think there was, 3 fights last year?
Yeah, it was
3 fights because Miami is a bunch of jerks. Anyways, we ended up winning that game.
by 10.
By 10.
Amir had a really good game. Our defense had a pretty good game. It was a lot of fun. I
Miami-
was down in Lincoln for that game. It was a lot of fun.
Miami does not have Duke Johnson this year. They still have their quarterback, who is a good quarterback in his second year now. He's young. He's got experience behind him now. I think he's gonna have a pretty. Excuse me. I think he's gonna have a solid game. But I'm a Nebraska fan. I never pick against Nebraska. I still think we're gonna win. I think we win. I'm gonna say by 6. Nebraska takes Miami at Miami by 6. We move to 2-1. That's the ABC game next week. Tune in. Go Huskers.
Just 2:30 ABC game. Excuse me. It'll be interesting to see what the spread is for this game at Miami. Whether it's I don't know, whether Miami's favorite, Nebraska's favorite, or if it's one of those pick'em type of games. I'm gonna take Nebraska. I think that we'll win by 10.
Nebraska by 10. Nebraska by 6. I think we got it. Thanks again for tuning in today, guys. We have another show coming to you next week. Tune into our Facebook page. We also have Twitter. We have an email.
Tell your friends.
Tell your friends. Pass it along. Share it. We got all our information on our Facebook page as well. Once again, we're just 2 average guys with opinions. If you don't like it, we don't really care. Cheers.
Thanks, guys. See you next week.
Go Big Red.